Y'all already know who the fuck it is. Asharenu. Alright, y'all should hear me now. Y'all already know who the fuck it is. Asharenu. How you doing, man? What's good? What's good? Alright, let's get straight to it. So what questions are relevant to one's ascension? Alright. Okay. We turn the volume up. Let me turn this brightness up so I can see everything that's going on. Alright, we good, we good. Okay. So hopefully everybody is on their shit. You know what I mean? What do I mean by that? Hopefully everybody's in tune with the ever changing circumstances. Because every day it's going to be a new challenge. But when you say you God, or when you say you the goddess, you expect the challenge. You never complain about nothing. So let me take you into the mind state. We're not gonna be in here too long. We're just taking a little walk. Just showing y'all some little sights. Y'all already know what it is. I may smoke a little something, I may not, depending on how I feel. Just giving a chance for everybody to come in. So, I want to make clear, what exactly is ascension? What is a truly relevant question? And how do you know how to piece all this shit together? Let me help you piece all these puzzle pieces and align them correctly. For example, every day there's a distraction. Every day is something that's completely irrelevant to your growth that's going on, whether right in front of you, whether it's in internet land, whether it's within your family, your friends, social network, whatever. There's always some shit that's completely irrelevant, but that's highly addictive. What do I mean by that? We already know about gossip, right? We already know about information that is misleading on purpose. For example, the biggest thing going on in recent times, and I'm not even going to say the biggest thing, but what people choose to give their attention to when it comes to current events. I'm actually going to sit down for a second. All right, here we go. Let me give y'all a 360. You already know what it is. Okay, here we go. So how do you know what's relevant to your ascension? Again, there's completely, everywhere you look, it's distractions. We already know this, right? Everywhere you look is complete distractions that don't have nothing to do with nothing, but are very interesting to talk about. Like we say, Trump is interesting to talk about, has nothing to do with your ascension. You can say, you know, Kanye West, you know, with all his recent comments, you know, had the whole internet just all over the place. But because of the way the information was released, it made him look a certain way, and you didn't get the full story till after it was already released. So after the chaos has already been, you know, it seeped into people's minds, then the full story is released, which completely made sense, right? But before, It was all over the place. It made him look like a fucking idiot. But when the full story was released, it made perfect sense, right? So we know you cannot trust the media. We should all know this by now, but motherfuckers act like they don't know. Don't trust the media. And I also want to say, you must control the narrative. You must control the narrative. When you allow somebody else to control the narrative in which you receive information, then you will fall victim to whatever agenda that they're pushing. For example, if somebody is telling you that you are not God, they're pushing an agenda. Let's just keep it simple. If somebody is pushing a narrative that you are not a divine being, that you are nothing in this spaceless, timeless universe, and you are not relevant, and you mean nothing, you just another number on a social security card, that's an agenda. If they're taking you out of your divine essence, that's an agenda. If they're trying to make you lower than or less than, that's an agenda. So, 99.9% of the media and where we receive our information is telling you that you are not God, right? They're putting all of the shit on Trump, on the president, on China, on Russia, on Saudi Arabia, on everything else but the truth. That you are the divine being and all this is emanating from your mind. So they're going to focus on the problems but never give a solution. They're going to tell you how fucked up the government is, but you can't do nothing about it. You just got to sit and wait for somebody to get their mind right, right? We got to wait for a Kanye West to speak up. Or we have to wait for somebody or who we consider a celebrity to speak up before people start talking. Because the narrative is being controlled. Because they're always going to give you a half truth, but you must add in the missing pieces. What do I mean? Everybody pretends to be woke in these days and times because it's trendy, it's relevant. Not because they actually are. What does it mean to be woke? What does it mean to be in your ascension? Let's break all this stuff down. To be woke is to realize that you're God. So if you're still saying the universe, you're not woke. Oh, the universe is giving me something that I can't give myself. You're not woke if you still feel the universe is bigger than you. If you feel like there's a big universe and there's a little me, and there isn't a common ground there, that is something outside of myself that's controlling my circumstances, you're being controlled. They're controlling the narrative. For example, they'll give you a half truth. They'll give you just enough truth for you to say, okay, that is true. But they're not going to give you the full truth. So something can be true, but not be truth. What do I mean? The reason why we're even paying attention to all these things, all these current events and all what's going on, because it is rooted in things that are true. People are saying things that are true. This is correct. But it is not truth. It is true, but it is not truth. So just because people are saying truthfulness does not mean it is truth. What do I mean by that? Let's give another example. You see, I'm taking all type of secret pathways. So, another example would be, we see that there's always some type of beef going on, right? Somebody's always beefing with somebody, whether it's in hip hop, whether it's the conscious community, whether it's any community. There's always somebody beefing, right? About some shit that's completely irrelevant. Because they may be speaking on things that are true, but it isn't truth. But because it's true, we tune into it. And we listen to it. And we feel that it's relevant. But they're not giving you any information to further your own personal cause, which is the full manifestation of God. Who's pushing that? Don't let me cross this street. For example, why does somebody have to tell you that you God, but then throw in some nonsense that has nothing to do with the full manifestation of God? Right? What does two men or two women beefing has anything to do with the full truth of God? Right? But we get caught up into the beef. We get caught up into the drama. We get caught into the narrative that's being pushed. So we're more concerned about what this person said about this person and not the truth, which is a full manifestation of God. So, what end up happening is that motherfuckers think they know who they are, but if you knew who you are, you would have no beef. Let's just be real, right? Let's be 100% honest. If you knew who the fuck you really was, you would have no beef. Let me actually show y'all this. Y'all see this shit? This is what, Cane's or whatever. This is a fast food joint. They sell chicken. You see this long ass line? Look at all these people lined up to get their fucking food. All right? You think they know who they are? Eating bullshit? I don't think so. But that's irrelevant. Fuck them, because they don't have nothing to do with the conversation. I'm just letting y'all know. When people get off work, they're hungry. They're not trying to hear shit. Leave them alone. Getting back to the point, if you truly knew who you was, you would not have any beef with nobody. You would not be pushing no agenda, because there is no agenda to be pushed other than the true full manifestation of God. There's nothing else to fucking talk about, because you only talking about things that are under that. If you're talking about the government and the Illuminati and all their tactics and what they plan on doing, the new world order and all this new currency and what they are going to do in the future and how they're going to enslave people and all this shit. But you're supposed to be God, though. Why the fuck do you care about their plans and their agendas if you God? How does that make sense? Why do you care what their plans are? If you God, you're going to be just fine. Even if they completely destroy the world, you won't be destroyed, because we exist beyond the body. But it's hard for people to go beyond the material plane because that's what they see in front of them. But they claim to be God, but they don't understand the full manifestation of God. They don't know how to go beyond the human body. Because on a human level, we are all in prison. This is a prison planet. People just have a hard time accepting that shit. But once you really know the truth, it isn't that hard to comprehend. And it don't make you feel no type of way. Okay, we're on a prison planet. We all have an appointed time in prison to have these bodies. Okay, cool. So what? Do your time, get the fuck up out of here. We don't need to complain about something that we must go through, something that we chose to go through, a situation that we put ourselves in. We put ourselves in this situation. Nobody did shit to us. Does that make you ungodly because you chose to go to sleep? Or you chose to forget just so that you can remember who and what you are after you have became, or in other words, you forget just to remember. Because once you remember the true manifestation of who you are, you're not tripping about nothing, anything. Motherfucker is still struggling to pay rent. Motherfucker is still having relationship problems and all this shit. But you're supposed to be God. The fuck is the problem? Right? Why is all of this unnecessary shit relevant to your life? But you're supposed to be walking around like a divine being. Can't even have your relationship working right. Your spouse don't even listen to you, but you're supposed to be a divine being. You're supposed to be a demigod, right? What is the point of claiming shit that don't make no sense? It's not that that's untrue. It's just that when you are living out this culture, when you have to live this shit out, there's a certain level of structure that you have to abide by. And if you don't, then you will be punished. In other words, what do I mean? See, all these people who are irrelevant, I'm not going to say all the people that's irrelevant, all the people who's walking around here ignorant, you cannot hold them to a certain bar because they're not walking around saying that they are divine beings. They're not walking around saying that they have knowledge of themselves. They're not claiming that, so they're not put under those rules and regulations that when you claim this shit, you must follow. And if you don't follow, you will be punished because you're claiming it. What do I mean? Let's take it a step further. If you claim to be God, you can't engage in devilish shit, right? Because you claim to be God. You claim to be a divine being. But you still gossiping against your own brother, against your own sister. Then you wonder why you fucked up. Because you're not in position to follow the rules and regulations that have been laid out. We're not the only ones, we're not the first ones to be claiming all this. You must follow certain rules and regulations if you don't want to fuck yourself up, because this is what you claim, this is what you believe in, this is what you invest your time into. So you can't walk around claiming to be a divine being, but doing devilish shit or engaging in devilish shit or concerned with devilish shit. Because that's just not what God does. If God is the supreme being, why the fuck is he or her concerned with anything other than the divine truth? If we say that we are the creators of our reality, that we are divine beings, we create everything around us, right? We create our circumstances and all that. All this is emanating from our mind. Why are we complaining about anything other than, damn, I need to organize my thoughts? If we're saying that we are creating this, the only thing that should be talked about is the organization of our thoughts, because that's the only thing that actually is, right? We matter our own thoughts. We matter our own manifestations, and that's something that we have to construct and fix within ourselves. It's nothing to do with the government. It's nothing to do with anything outside of ourselves. This is only if you claim to be a divine being. You're not complaining about nothing because you're like, what is there to complain about other than I need to get my shit together? That's it. That's the only thing that's relevant. So the questions that need to be asked, is, do I truly know who I am? Am I for sure about this information and this knowledge? Do I even know the root of this knowledge? Many people don't. Many people don't even know where this shit originates from. Who was the first people or the first person to claim to be God in the US? Oh, wait. Nobody knows, right? Who was the first person or first group kicking this information in the United States? Most people don't know. But they listening to somebody that came after the fact. And because they're listening to somebody that came after the fact, they don't have a firm foundation of where the knowledge came from. They just know the manifestations of it. In other words, if you're not connected to the root of civilization, then you're bound to fail. Let's just keep it real. You're bound to fail if you don't have a connection to the root, to who the fuck brought the knowledge of self to you. Not the person who's talking about it now. Who was the first? Who was the person that was kicking this shit when everybody was walking around like zombies for real, for real? When there was no other alternative. It's either people were religious or they were completely ignorant. So the first person to come here spitting that real shit, people don't even know who that is. Just imagine the atmosphere. See, nowadays you can kind of get over with people because people are kind of woke. So they can kind of flow with you when you're talking about metaphysics. And when you're talking about metaphysical truths or esoteric or occult truth, they can kind of flow with you because that information is kind of popular nowadays. But they can only go so far because they're not connected with the root. They don't even know where it comes from. If you don't know where it comes from, you're not going to get the full picture because you're just listening to somebody else's agenda. So somebody else came along listening to the root, and they created the whole reality around that. But they took away certain pieces from the root that got people fucked up because they don't know what the root is. So, saying this to say, it don't matter what you study, it don't matter who you listen to. When you claim to be a divine being, when you walk with this truth, every day, all day, 24/7, whether you are awake or you sleep, if you are claiming this, there are certain rules and regulations that must be followed. Because if you don't follow it, you will be punished, as opposed to everybody else. See, that's the thing. People are always talking about everybody else. Oh, how are they able to, let's just say, for example, a lot of people feel, again, like hip-hop is the Illuminati and like how all these people able to make all this money and they're not helping the community and all this stuff. They're not giving back. Well, I don't see these motherfuckers claiming to be divine beings. So I can't hold somebody up to a standard that they never even applied. They never even put themselves in that position. Somebody who's ignorant and who doesn't claim to be a divine being. So somebody who's ignorant, do I expect them to give back to their community? Do I expect them to teach civilization? Do I expect them to teach the knowledge of self when they're not even qualified to do so? Absolutely not. So why am I mad at somebody who's ignorant, who does not know better, who probably doesn't even understand financial literacy? Just because people are walking around with a bunch of money don't mean they know what to do with it, because they're not educated in how to invest properly, how to make sure that you get a return on your investment, to make sure that you don't go broke. For example, if most people who claim to be broke, who claim to never have enough money to do anything with, if you just gave them $1 million, they will waste that money. Because they don't know what to do with it. See, that's what everybody thinks. They think, if I had this amount of money, I would be okay. But they wouldn't, because they don't know what to do with the money. Right? But at the same time, am I about to go at their head? No, because they never claimed to be a divine being. So you still have to treat them how they present themselves, as somebody who just does not know better. So everybody's mad at people who never claim to know better. So this is why there's so much confusion in the world. Because you have all these people who's mad or upset at people who didn't even claim to be other than what they claim to be. So, the people that actually do claim to be divine beings, why does it seem like they're not doing too well? Why does it seem like they're always struggling? Why does it seem like they're always the ones getting fucked up out here? As we know, what's going on now, they say YouTube is censoring a lot of creators who's speaking about truth, right? They're being censored. They can't really reach a wider audience because they're not allowed to. But we don't realize that somebody else created this platform, so we have to abide by their rules and regulations. It's not yours. So if they want to suppress something, they can do so as their platform. They created it, so they're going to run it. How many people are talking about creating their own? We supposed to be creators though, right? We mad at what the fuck YouTube is doing. YouTube censorship. But it's somebody else's platform. Plus, what's stopping you from taking your ass outside and making some shit happen for yourself? You don't need YouTube. You don't even need the internet, honestly. We don't need these things. We just think we do because, again, motherfuckers is claiming shit that they not ready to claim. I say it like that. Motherfuckers are claiming shit that they're not ready to claim because there's certain rules and regulations, once again, that come with claiming this. Meaning, if you are the creator, you must create. If you are the creator, you must create. And I'm not just talking about creating music or creating art. I'm talking about inventing things, to be an inventor, to be a constructor, to build, not just draw colors and shit. I'm talking about building. Because what's stopping anybody from doing it? Nobody. It's not hard to build a website, and you can speak whatever truth you want to speak, and can't nobody do nothing about it. You got people who make porn sites and put whatever type of fucking porn that they want on their sites. Can't nobody stop them because it's their site. Can't nobody tell them what they can and can't do because it's their site. As long as it's not illegal, they can put whatever they want in their videos. It's getting to the point where you can say, truth, you can say you may not even really be able to find truth on YouTube and on a big platform. But again, it's not our platform. We didn't create it. So we shouldn't really be concerned with shit like that. We should not be concerned with things that we didn't create, things that we don't have control over, that's in somebody else's hands who has a completely different agenda than us. Because everybody's thinking that we need 1 million people, that we need 1 million followers. The only time you need big numbers is if you're dealing with ignorant people. Let me say that again. The only time you need big numbers is if you are dealing with ignorant people. The only time you feel like you need 1 million people to show and prove something, you're dealing with ignorant people. Because if you had 100 people who knew who they was, who had knowledge of themselves, they are more powerful than 1 million ignorant people. It just is what it is. But everybody's focused on numbers. Everybody's talking about censorship, because they're not able to do as many numbers as the next person, when it never was about numbers. You don't need that many people if they have the knowledge of self. That's the whole point. But we worried about censorship. We worried about not being able to reach a wider audience. You don't need a wider audience. That's it. You don't need that. We don't need the same tools and reach that these other people have. Because you have knowledge of yourself, you don't need $1 million in your pocket to make some shit happen. You can make some shit happen with $100 in your pocket. You can make some shit happen with 100 subscribers. You can make some shit happen with 100 views. You don't need all these other resources. You don't need the best of anything. You don't need the latest of anything to start something, because you are a divine being. You can create, literally, with your mind and your willpower, whatever circumstance that you need to be in to push forward civilization. But somebody without the knowledge of themselves feel like they need loans. They need somebody else to validate it, when they don't need none of it. You just need to know who you are and stand on your truth. That's it. That's it. You just need to know who you are and stand on your truth. That's it. So, we're going to move on to the next phase now. I'm going to light this up. Give me 1 second. I know it's getting pretty dark. So I just wanted to let y'all know, because I know a lot of people may be disenfranchised. A lot of people may feel like they don't have what they need. Again, they may be hurting and they don't know why. Like, yo, I'm studying all this information. Why am I still hurting like I'm hurting? Why am I not able to ascend the way I'm properly supposed to ascend? And because you must hold yourself to a certain standard. We cannot hold ourselves to the same standard of the ignorant people, of people who have no knowledge of themselves. We can't hold ourselves to those standards. So we can't expect those same opportunities that they have. We must be able to do more with less. Because we have more. We have more mind power. So we don't need as many resources. We don't need a whole enterprise of shit. Again, trust me, if you had 100 people in one household who had the knowledge of themselves, do you know how much power that is? But when we look at the videos, I only got 100 views. I'm not doing anything. We're looking at things completely wrong. We must be able to do more with less because we have more mental power. But that's what you signed up for, right? Let's take it to another level. Isn't that not what you signed up for? When you say you had the knowledge of yourself, when you say that you are a divine being, that means you are signing up to do more with less. Otherwise, what's the fucking point? What is the point? If you only can do what everybody else can do who don't have knowledge of themselves, who are savages, who choose to be savages, rather. But when you have the knowledge of yourself, you're not the only time you are thinking about other people is to civilize and to enlighten them for those who choose to listen. Right? Because again, trust me, I look at all these Facebook posts, all just social media. Every time that I log into social media and I see all the stuff that's being posted, what everybody else is saying, people that's supposed to be enlightened, people who supposed to have a little knowledge of themselves, right? Talking about everything else but the knowledge of self. Did I have to think? So when you had the knowledge of yourself, excuse me, but you're complaining about, let's just say, somebody who doesn't. And you're not stepping in to correct that situation, then there's no need to speak on it. If you're not going to step in and correct the situation, there's no need to speak on it. Because if you're supposed to be the all-knower or the wise knower, if somebody's saying something that is incorrect, then you are supposed to correct them because you know better. But you don't see people doing that. So I'm just letting it be known. We're not going to stay in here too long. Just letting it be known. If you are a creator, if you claim to be a creator, if you really in your heart believe that we are inside of a matrix and that the matrix can be glitched and that we can ascend beyond the bullshit, if you truly believe that in your heart, then the only thing to do is to show and prove that truth. Because once you show and prove that truth, there's nobody that will be able to debate that truth. Because you're showing and proving. You have to learn about these mathematics. That's why I'm always talking about mathematics. They must be lived out. That's why every number has a principle. And those principles open up more and more doors to deeper and deeper studies as to why those principles are relevant and how to apply those principles to your life. Let me give you an example. When we go to supreme mathematics, let's just deal with the number one. The number one is knowledge. If we define knowledge, you can say to have knowledge is to gather information. So when one has knowledge, that means they have accumulated information. They aren't doing anything with it just yet. They just have accumulated or gathered the facts. Right? So knowledge means you have gathered the facts. Once you have gathered the facts, what is the next step? But before we go to the next step, when we break down knowledge, each letter, when we break down each letter, and we don't have to break down each letter, but if you wanted to, you have knowledge. K-N-O-W-L-E-D-G-T. What is that in the supreme alphabet? You have king, now or end, cipher, wisdom, love, hail or right, equality, divine, God, equality. Most people don't understand, but I'm just giving you an example. You have the word knowledge. Then the word knowledge has its individual letters, and each individual letter is associated with a principle. So not only do you have knowledge, you have those individual principles. Then not only do you have those individual principles, you also have what knowledge breaks down to, which is 6, which is equality. How do you put that together? Why does knowledge break down to the number 6, which represents equality? Or when we take it to astrology, it represents the planet Venus, which rules over the zodiac signs of Libra and Taurus. Libra and Taurus. We know Venus is all about harmony, balance, peacemaking. We know Libra's always a peacemaker. The sign of justice, divine justice. We know that Taurus is all about divine beauty, being able to create divine beauty around us in the physical plane. Libra is basically divine justice and divine harmony mentally. So Libra is more about the mind, Taurus is more about the body and the sensations. When you piece those together, you get the planet Venus, which represents those two principles in one. Knowledge. Why does knowledge break down to the number 6, equality, or the planet Venus? Because once you have accumulated facts, you now have the ability, as we said, with the Libra and the Taurus, to not only have divine beauty in your physical reality. I might as well stay here with the light. Okay. Knowledge breaks down to 6 because the attribute of the Libra gives you divine justice and being able to make peace with your thoughts. Libra is a mental sign. Taurus, being able to make divine beauty in the physical plane, being able to harmonize whatever environment that you may enter into. So when you have gathered that information, knowledge borns 6. Equality, you are able to bring equality to not only yourself mentally, but everything around you. That's why knowledge breaks down to 6. And again, you got each individual attribute. So you can go as deep as you want to go. But this is what it means to have knowledge of self. Because you understand that, okay, everything that I just said, that we know that this is a mental process. We know that this is something that we have to do within ourselves. This isn't We don't get to do this when so-and-so pushes a button, or when somebody gives us a certain amount of money, or when we get a promotion at job, or when our family gets their shit together, or when we get our shit together, or whatever. None of that takes place after when somebody else says so, or when something happens physically. That's something that we can apply right now, in the moment. That's a consciousness that we can intake by influencing our breath. Let's breathe a little bit deeper. Let's start to meditate. Let's be able to be active while we are meditating, not just being able to meditate in your home, but being able to be active when you meditate. Meditating while you have to go into work, or when you have to deal with your children, when you have to deal with other people, when you have to go into business. Having that mental clarity, as well as being able to beautify your environment. Those are principles that we can apply right now. We don't have to wait for somebody else to say so. We don't have to wait for somebody else to give us something. These are things that we can take out into the world whenever we choose. Because we are all of these attributes, we are all of these principles, we are all these mathematics. So when we have the knowledge of ourselves, again, we don't care about what's going on outside. Because we know once we enter into the field, once we step out into the field, we can start manipulating things based on what we know, based on the knowledge that we have gathered. You being able to equalize you being able to equalize your environment or alter your environment is based on you gathering knowledge. So we understand that through that process of gathering knowledge, there's going to be some knowledge that works and some knowledge that doesn't work. Now we move on to the second principle, which is the number 2, which is wisdom. Wisdom is a process of discerning basically what works and what doesn't work. Because once you are at knowledge, this is you just taking in a large lump sum of information. Wisdom is taking out what is not useful to you so that it becomes a little bit more solid for you. Right? So the second principle, wisdom, you taking out everything that don't work. So what are you left with? So now that you're left with a particular combination, which goes to the third principle, understanding. You being able to formulate your own understanding, how you see things from the inside and out, the under and the stand, the inner and the outer. You being able to see the full picture. You having a clear view of what you're truly looking at, because now you have taken out all the things that don't make sense to you. So now you're left with everything that does make sense to you, and the things that do make sense to you has allowed you to develop your own clear version, or you can say your own unique view of the knowledge that has been gathered. So now nobody's telling you anything. Now you have your own unique style of looking at the world around you inside of you. That's when you understand something. When you understand something, you can essentially explain it to a 5-year-old because you know it in and out, and you know all of the aspects. And again, you can break it down as simply as you want to, or as complex as you want to, because you now understand it. You got the inner and the outer view. So from that unique style of looking at everything around you, this becomes number 4, which is your culture, your way of life. That understanding turns into habits. That understanding develops into habits. Those habits become your culture, your way of life. So your way of life is based on your habits, which come from your understanding, which come from the wisdom, the discernment, taking out what works and what don't work, and you're left with only the pure. That's why wisdom represents purity. You're only left with the pure after you get out all the bullshit, which is again based on after you have accumulated or gathered knowledge or information or data, right? We are in the age of information, so we have an infinite source of information. So we're gathering up all of this information, and the wisdom is we being able to pick what works, what don't work, which gives us a unique perspective of life, which turns into habits, which is your way of life. That turns into the number 5, which is power. Those habits which have become your culture, now empowers you to go about the world and alter it. So you can't go into the world and alter the world until you have a unique understanding of everything around you, and that unique understanding turns into habits. Those habits, which form your way of life, is now going to determine, when you go out into the world, how you can influence it. Just like power, so you think about a hammer, you're able to take the hammer and break new ground. You're able to go out into the world and alter it. So depending on, again, your way of life is going to determine how you go out into the world and alter it. Which takes us to the number 6, equality. Once you have went out into the world and alter it to your liking, based on the Libra, the mental justice, the divine justice, being a peacemaker mentally, being sophisticated in your thoughts. Then the Taurus was being able to alter the reality and make it as beautiful and pleasing to your eye. That's the number 6. So you have the power to make the universe pleasing to your eye, which is based on your own unique understanding of reality. Now, once we have beautified our reality that's pleasing to our eye, now we move to the God realm, the number 7, the number of God. Once things are being beautified in our eyes, we don't even have to focus on it no more. Everything is beautiful. So it takes you to a place beyond the physical world. Now you're going through the gateways of the spirit realm. Now you're able to see yourself like, okay, I see myself as God on the microcosm realm. Now I'm seeking to see myself as God on the macrocosm, on the grander scale of things. So now we're moving from the little God, because you have become the God of your world, the God of your universe at this point. So now you, okay, I want to see myself in my highest light. That's the number 7. So you move on to the occult and the esoteric teachings, because at this point, after you have stabilized, amazing is pleasing to your eye, now you can focus on the occult and the esoteric, so that you can see yourself in that divine light. Right? Because it's one thing to see yourself as God on a microcosm. It's another stuff to see your God on a macrocosm. So number 7 moves you to that macro, moves you to the spirit realm, makes you see yourself in a divine light. And from that divine light, we get to the number 8, which is build or destroy. Once you see yourself in that divine light, so the same way when you was at the number 5 and you took that hammer and you started breaking new ground, now you're doing that on a macrocosm level. So the same way you did in alter your physical reality, now you are altering the macrocosm, or what we call the universe. Now you're altering the universe. So now you're not just altering everything that you can place your eyes on. Now you're altering everything that you can put your imagination on. This is a number of imagination. Now you're able to go further. Now you're thinking about, okay, how can I alter the world? Now you're going, okay, I've altered my reality. Now that I'm operating on a macrocosm level, now you're thinking about, how can I make or alter my universe or the world? Basically, like, how can I do things that have a bigger influence than maybe just the people in front of me? You start thinking on a divine level. Again, you can say this is the Jesus level, right? He's not just thinking about his apostles. He's thinking about, like, yo, this is a religion, this is a lifestyle that I want y'all to, you know what I mean, to spread. So it's not just about me and my 12 homies and the rest of the world is just ignorant. It's me, the 12 homies, which makes 13 in total. So the 13, the number of disruption, the number of chaos. The 13 now spreads. It's like an explosion, the number of Armageddon. So it explodes. So basically, Jesus, and again, this is all allegory, right? Jesus had to die on the cross, a traumatizing effect on people, and that's what made it spread. If he would have just died of old age, it wouldn't have had the impact it had. It's all about, yo, Jesus died for our sins, right? If that never happened, if he would have just died an old man, it wouldn't have mattered. So he had to go through that 13. There had to be some traumatizing, some divine in people's minds effect, like, yo, he died for our sins. Look what all what he went through and still forgave the people. He didn't go to his grave with no grudges. So in the allegorical sense, we see what the build or destroy means. Meaning at this point, on a macrocosm level, now you're like, yo, how can I heal? Now you're thinking about healing. Again, now you're thinking about your imagination. So being able to set up shop or set up a church or set up a business so that you can push your influence. So now you're thinking about business again. Now you're thinking about setting up things that can push your influence. And when we get to the number 9, which is born, thinking on that level. So now you have influence, your immediate reality, and your influence, your greater reality. And that's going to give birth to things that are not even thought about at this point. In other words, ascension. That allows you to ascend, thinking on that level, following the supreme mathematics. And of course, the number 0, let's not forget the number 0, which all other numbers come from. This is all happening within a cipher, 360 degrees. So all of this, all of that was just explained, is happening within this cipher of 360 degrees. So that means there are 360 degrees to this full operation. So you can say there's 360 principles that one would have to master in order to ascend, in order to be operating on, again, just on an allegorical sense, a Jesus level. You would have to master 360 principles. Or you could say let's just say the animal totems. There's 360 animal totems, and you being able to embody those attributes fully. Now, again, to most people, that just seems like, okay, 360, trying to memorize this stuff, this is just out of their level of comprehension. But when you claim to be a divine being, you take up the challenge of being able to do something like this, because you understand that, okay, in order for my mind to even be able to process all this stuff, to even be operating on this level, then I know this is going to require me to fast. I may need to better my diet. I may need to take up a form of martial arts. You know, I may need to be a little bit more active. Like, this is going to require me to build up everything else in my reality anyway. So we understand. In order to take on something as huge as that, having all these things memorized and being able to instantly activate all of your magic, we know that it takes us, there's certain things that we have to sacrifice. It takes sacrifice. We're going to have to give up certain things. We're going to have to add on certain things. We want to do more of certain things, less of other things, in order to take on a huge challenge like that. So it's not that it's impossible, it's just that it takes sacrifice. And if you're not willing to put in that work and that sacrifice, then it's going to seem impossible, and you're going to wait for somebody else to do it. And when they're doing it, you probably gonna hate on them when they're doing it, because you know that you could have did it, but you didn't want to put in that work. You know what I mean? Everything requires work. As we know, hard work, right? We have to put in that level of when something is underground and only we know that it's going to rise to something great. We got to operate on a level of faith. So just giving some insight so that we don't get lost and we don't get confused and all these happenings in the world, occurring events. It's easy to get sucked into all these things that take you away from everything that I've been speaking about. Because I guarantee everything that I've been speaking about, you're not going to find it in the mainstream. You're not going to find it in your immediate circle unless we have to bring that vibration to the world. Again, just like the allegory of Jesus. It wasn't 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Jesus is walking around. It was just a couple It's always just a couple that have the ability to influence their whole reality on a level that just seems impossible or magical to other people. It's just that he was willing to put in the sacrifice, the necessary hours, and follow certain rules and regulations or principles. Follow those 360 principles that are within a cipher so that he can fully embody those principles so that he can ascend. So ascension is essentially embodying principles. Is once you embody those principles, you are able to ascend. It's not people look at it as a level that you hit. No, it's a state of mind when you are holding firm those 360 principles. Going through this process, knowing who and what you are, and that this is possible. Like, you're not looking at this as something impossible. You're looking at this like, yo, I can really do this. And again, I had to prove to myself, like, the longest I went without eating food was 11 days. I went 11 days without eating food. So I had to get over the fear that if you don't eat in 3 days, you're gonna die. I grew up, that's what I was taught. Like, if you don't eat in 3 days, you die. So I had to face that fear. Like, yo, you can actually go longer than 3 days without eating food. Now, yeah, you can read that in a book. Somebody else can tell you that, but it's not till you test it for yourself that you start to gather an understanding. Like, okay, I know for myself because I did it. I'm not necessarily I don't have to take somebody else's word for what I did it myself. And that gives you a deeper understanding than just somebody else who's telling you about it. Because now you know for yourself. You have showed and proved who and what you are to yourself. Like, okay, well, if I can go, if that's true, why isn't that being taught? Why are we still being taught the bullshit? Because it keeps you on a certain level by you not knowing who and what you are. Because once you fall into the mentality of we can only do so much being human, when we truly don't even know what it is to be human. The human body is the most advanced technology on the planet. Not the MacBooks, not the iPhone, the human body. This is the most advanced form of technology. But of course, most people was looking at technology as electronics. Well, the body is electric as well, right? We know this. Well, we should know this. The most advanced technology is the body. Because the body is the most advanced technology, the body holds all the secrets. Not the MacBook, not the iPhone, not the money, not the bank. The body. All the secrets and all the principles are within the body. So when we know who and what we are on a macrocosm level, which is the human body, once we understand the human body on a macrocosm level, microcosm, I'm getting the two mixed up, microcosm, once we understand the secrets, then it unlocks the secrets of the macrocosm. Again, the major arcana and the minor arcana in the tarot cards. Right, you got the major arcana, which is 22 cards. The first 22 cards are the major secrets. The arcana means secrets, the major secrets, and the minor secrets. The macrocosm secrets, and the microcosm secrets. All of these things are one and the same. These are all the same science. It's just broken up into various ways of life and schools of thought, but it's all the same science that what man is God. It's all going to go back to that same principle. Man and woman is God. You know, what else can be the truth? So since we know this, there's no need to talk about the government. There's no need to talk about the oppression. There's no need to talk about anything that will limit our understanding of who and what we are. Because if you are who you claim you are, then that means you can succeed against all odds. Because you can succeed against all odds, then there's no need to talk about things that are lesser than you. Because as we just know, if man and woman is God, if mind is God, if all is mental, why are we tripping on thought forms? That's supposed to take you off your square. Not thought forms that elevate your ascension, thought forms that take you off your thought square. Your square. thought forms that take you off of your square, which is your center, right? Just for the sake of entertainment. So there's a time and place for everything, right? Not gonna take up too much time. So I just wanted to put certain things into perspective, because things be getting altered and twisted easily, and we can easily, you know, get away from the center of reality, which is all is mind. We out. Peace.